Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, Stewart Alexander here, and on this segment of the show, I have certified divorce recovery and divorce prevention coach Shan White of Women's Peak Performing Coaching, who is calling in all the way from Colorado Springs. Now, among the many skills that Shan has, she specializes in the topic of divorce recovery and will be talking to you today about, wait for this, divorce and children. So, really excited to have her on the show. So let's not keep her waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Shan White. Are you there, Shan?
I am, Stewart, and first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have a chat with you today.
And we are so excited about having you on the show. So let's jump right in then, Shan. In your own words, can you briefly describe the people you serve and the kinds of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for help?
I would love to, Stewart. As you mentioned, I am a certified life coach, and so I specialize in all things divorce. And as most of us know, there's really two sides of that divorce coin. The first is preventing a divorce, which I am always happy to do. I do work with women exclusively. No offense to men, that's just my particular calling. But if a woman comes to me and her marriage is heading down the toity, but she wants to stop it from happening, but doesn't know how in the world do I keep my marriage from going downhill, I can work with her and get her up to speed. Contrary to popular opinion, it does not take two people. If I can work with, in my case particularly, the woman, it's kind of like any dynamics in life. When one person or one thing shifts, it automatically causes the interaction of that other person, place, or thing to shift. And then secondly, the other side, sadly, of the divorce coin, we all know that 50% or more of marriages end in divorce. And if that is the case, and they are pre, mid, or after divorce, and they need to get back on their feet, figure out where their life is going, work through some of those, negative emotions, stress, anxiety, resentment, anger. I have been there myself, and there's nothing she can't throw at me that I can't help her with and overcome. And actually, my tagline is to help her create the life that she sees when she closes her eyes and dreams. Isn't that beautiful, Stewart?
That is very beautiful. I can imagine when these women come to you, having seen that tagline, then they come to you full of hope for what can only be described as a very stressful situation when one finds himself in divorce or being divorced. So when you think about those women who come to you for your help, what are some of the most common misconceptions surrounding the topic of divorce, and especially when it comes to divorce and children?
That's such a great question, Stewart. And since we are talking about divorce surrounding children, one of the most common misconceptions surrounding children of divorcing parents is that the children are experiencing the devastation of divorce as much as you are, and sometimes more. Sometimes we think of children as not fully developed, little people. And although they're in little bodies, they still experience the same type of emotions, and again, sometimes more than we adults do.
So again, thinking about the women who come to you for your help then, Shan, could you just share with us a case study or a short story, if you will, of a client, a past client who came to you for help and you were able to create a transformation where they were able to overcome some of those common misconceptions that they have when they arrive through your doors. Now, obviously, keep client confidentiality in mind as you do share your experiences. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Yes, I'd love to. And actually, I don't have to adhere to the confidentiality clause because I'm going to share very quickly my own personal story and how it transformed in a coaching context, and that is this.
Okay, great. Sounds great. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I too am a child of divorce, and have been divorced, so I know the pains of being a child of divorce and then an adult divorcing. And my mom and dad decided to divorce when I was 10 and my little brother was 5. And in keeping with the misconception that sometimes we're not aware of what's going on with our children, my mother, God bless her heart, decided to go. Her intentions were great in that she wanted to go and get what they called back in those days a quickie divorce in Reno, Nevada, that was only going to take 6 weeks. So she shipped my brother and I off to her parents from Pennsylvania to Michigan. Well, the quickie divorce turned into a 6-month divorce. And so here's what both parents missed. What they didn't realize is, from the children's point of view, the 10-year-old me and my brother, the 5-year-old, not only were we devastated with the news that our mommy and our daddy were no longer going to be together, and we were not only dealing with the emotions of that, which is devastating in itself alone, but then we were ripped out from our home, our school, our friends, and from our mom and our dad for 6 months. And there was a time that with my mom, she just had no clue. She just thought, and she did. Her intentions were great. She was doing the best that she can. So this is no offense or diss to parents in any way. The intent of this is to share the story so that it helps to open up our awareness. For example, my mother had no idea that we were sensed absolute abandonment because none of the things in our world were the same. So for us, you can imagine, Stewart, it was extraordinarily frightening and scary, and new home and new school and new friends and new routine. We had nothing to lean on that was in any sense of consistency or normalcy. And that's one of the things I coach my clients on, is that the more you can, because there's already been so much devastating change, that the more you can create a sense of normalcy, the better it is for that child to adjust. Do you agree with that, Stuart?
Oh, wholeheartedly, because like yourself, I'm also a divorced child, so to speak, and unlike in your situation where you were sent away, I experienced everything locally and very close to where I lived. In the way how my mother and father split up was my father actually moved into the house of his new partner at the top of our street. And her son was the same age as me, went to the same school, and every day when I used to walk to school, I had to walk past their house, knowing that my father was in that house and totally not understanding why. And so I could tell many, many stories of just being caught up in this volatile situation between my mother and father as a young man. As a young child, because I was only 13 when that happened, and there were no like people like yourselves at that time, divorce mediators, divorce coaches, etc., that you could turn for help and for assistance. So I totally 100% understand where you're coming from, and I hope your story, and at least a little bit what I've shared with the listeners out there, in some way is going to help them to see if there are children involved, and please do think about them. They're the most important ones. They're the most vulnerable ones, because you really have no idea what's going on in that child's mind. I carried the guilt of my parents' divorce for many, many, many years to come, and it took me many years of self-assessment to figure it all out, and eventually to work out that it wasn't my fault, but it took a long time to get to that point. And luckily, I didn't fall by the wayside in the process. So thanks so much for sharing your experience and being a catalyst for me to just share a little bit of my experience. I'm sure between the two of us, we could talk for many hours about what happened as divorced children. So with that said, then, Shan, you've spoken about the misconceptions, and you just shared a short story with us of your own personal experiences. So in terms of the listener who's sitting there right now listening to us speak, what are some of the unknown pitfalls that you come across when you're working with such people who find themselves in a divorce where children are involved?
Well, first of all, very quickly, Stewart, let me just thank you for sharing your story, and let me reinforce that you absolutely were not to blame. And that is one of the things, one of the that pitfalls that happens with parents is, number one, they don't realize that you and I, as children of divorce and their children of divorce, did not choose this. We did not choose to divorce our parents, and so this was put upon us. And so we, as parents, have such a need for delicacy and tenderness towards our children. And then secondly, and this is such a common one, and Stewart, I hear it over and over again, but I'm sorry I have to stomp on this point again because I hear parents still doing it, and that is this. And again, it's just a lack of awareness or sometimes poor habits, but, you know, since children derive their identity from both of their parents, when you put down one parent in front of that child, in essence, you are putting down that child because that child is a part of mom. That child is a part of dad. And so when you bash mom and you bash dad, you are inadvertently bashing that child. And inevitably, it does affect their self-esteem. So my caution, my plea to parents out there, moms and dads, please, please, please keep your negative opinions. Does that mean you can't vent? Absolutely not. But please keep those negative comments to your counselor, your coach, your clergy, your mediator, whomever you feel a trust with a professional to be able to vent those out. What are your thoughts about that, Stewart?
Well, I'm just thinking, as you were saying that, Shan, I was thinking, where was Shan when I was growing up?
I know, I wish I was there with you and for you.
Oh, my goodness. That was one of the most heartbreaking parts of the divorce. The bashing, the trashing of the parent from one parent to another, and being caught in the middle. And when you did something wrong, being told, oh, you're just like your father, he's this, he's that, and you're just like him, or you remind me of your mother, and she does this, she does that. And it's just, again, if you're listening to this and you have children, as emotional as the divorce may be, and as unfairly as you may have been treated by your partner, irrespective, it's a child. They're just children, and they are the innocent ones. So please, as Shannon has already alluded, set your emotions aside when it comes to the children. Try not to argue in front of the children. and try to keep it as positive as possible. Children are smart. They know what's going on anyway, and they'll kind of figure it out in their own way. So they don't need anybody to tell them that they are like somebody else who they have no responsibility for the actions that they take. So that's what I have to say on that point, Shan, because you're the star of the show. It shouldn't really be about me speaking so much, but
I have loved it, Stewart, and such great input.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. I just hope that it helps you, the listener who's listening to this right now. So with that said, and with you sharing so much of your expertise today, Shan, I'm sure the listener who's tuning in right now would love to know a little bit more about Shan White. I mean, what's her experience in terms of her background, her education, and her experience as it relates to the topic of divorce and children. So if you could just briefly share a little bit about yourself, Shan, so that the listener can get to know a little bit more about you. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Yes, as I alluded to, I too have been through a painful divorce, so I have that in common with my clients, so I can offer full empathy and understanding. But not only that, a friend could do that. But on top of that, I am so proud of my education, Stewart, because my certification is from the official Tony Robbins School. Probably most people know Tony Robbins. He and a world-famous family therapist, Chloe Madonna's, created Robbins Madonna's coach training. And so what separates students or graduates like I am from Robbins Madonna's is from the normal run-of-the-mill coach is that I'm trained at a master's level, the equivalent of a master's degree. I have to have a bachelor's to enter. And so we are trained at such high levels, Stewart, that we get results, and I in particular get results that are so much quicker than, say, your old-fashioned traditional therapist where you're sitting on the couch for a decade staring at your navel. And the other thing is that the strategies that we use are more sustainable. We've had clients that we've gone back a year, 5, 10 years later to check up on them, and they are maintaining the growth and the change that they've developed through coaching, through our advanced techniques of strategic intervention coaching is what they call it. So I am so proud of that, and I too have gotten massive changes quickly and that are sustainable for my clients. And I got to tell you, that's what lights me up like a Christmas tree, Stewart. That's what gets my butter melted.
Yeah, and I can certainly feel your passion coming through as you speak on this topic. So with that in mind, what would be your absolute best piece of advice for that person? If you can just close your eyes and envision that person sat there listening to you talk right now, then Shan, what would be your absolute best piece of advice as is related to the topic of divorce prevention, and especially surrounding the topic of divorce and children?
That's so easy for me because I have experienced it myself. And the best piece of advice that I would give to parents out there is please consider putting your children before your anger, because it typically is what motivates. Our conversation was a great deal surrounding bashing the parent in front of the children, and typically it's motivated because I'm just so angry. And so in that sense, you're inadvertently, unintentionally, you're putting your anger before your kids. If you could please consider putting that anger on the back burner just for the moment while the kids are around.
Shan, unfortunately, we are out of time, but if there's somebody out there who wants to connect with you, if they want to get hold of you, how would they do that? Where would they find you?
Sure. There's 3 ways they can connect with me very rapidly on my website, which is women's, plural, so Women's Peak Performance Coaching.com, or they can reach out through me to an email. My first name is Shan, S-H-A-N, followed by coaches, plural, at Comcast.net, or they can always call my office directly, and that phone number is 719-388-8758. Thanks for asking, Stewart.
You're so welcome, Shan, and thank you for sharing with us today. You certainly have proven that you are an educator. You're an advocate for the people who you work with, and certainly a trustworthy advisor. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to come and speak with us, and especially a big thank you to you, the listener who is listening to this conversation today. Thank you for joining us with one of the top leading certified divorce recovery and divorce prevention coaches today, Shan White. So again, I'm Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more divorce professionals in this, our series of divorce-related conversations. So until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.